When you look at Carmen Dell'Orefice, at 91, you see someone who redefined what it means to age. But what's striking is that her longevity isn't a mystery reserved for a chosen few. It's the sum of habits, choices, and mindsets that anyone can begin practicing, whether you're in your 40s, 60s, or well beyond. Let's quickly recap the key insights. First, food as cellular medicine. What you eat sends chemical instructions to your body, either to repair and regenerate or to inflame and decay. Anti-aging foods, rich in antioxidants, healthy fats, and micronutrients are not about vanity. They're about cellular survival. Second, movement as a youth signal. Exercise is not punishment. It sips communication. Each time you move, you sips telling your brain and body, stay young, stay ready, stay alive. Third, the overlooked hero, sleep and recovery. Deep, restorative sleep is the body's nightly tune-up, clearing toxins, resetting hormones, and literally slowing biological aging. Fourth, intimacy, sex, and connection. We're wired for touch, for closeness, for belonging. Oxytocin, the so-called bonding hormone, isn't just about relationships. It actively supports cardiovascular health, reduces stress, and boosts emotional resilience. Fifth, mindset and purpose. People who carry a reason to wake up every morning live longer, heal faster, and feel better. Purpose keeps dopamine flowing, keeps the brain learning, and makes the body believe the future is worth preparing for. And sixth, rituals of beauty, self-care, and stress regulation. What some dismiss as surface is in fact deeply physiological. Reducing cortisol, protecting telomeres, and slowing the aging clock often comes down to the daily rituals that remind you I am worth caring for. Now let's stitch this together. What Carmen teaches us isn't that there's one secret trick, one miracle food, or one perfect gene. The truth is simpler and more empowering. Agelessness is a daily practice. It's choosing to nourish your body at the cellular level. It's moving like someone who still plans to dance, to climb stairs, to laugh until breathless. It's guarding your sleep like the treasure it is. It's letting intimacy and love soften the stress of living. It's holding a mindset of reinvention, seeing every decade not as an ending, but as an invitation to become more fully yourself. Here's a challenge you can start today. Pick one tool from this series and apply it. Not next week, not someday, but today. Maybe it's replacing an inflammatory food with a nutrient-dense one. Maybe it's walking for 20 minutes with no phone in hand. Maybe it's reaching out to someone for real connection, or simply reframing a limiting belief about your age and replacing it with a new story. I'm not winding down, I'm still in motion. The science is clear. Small, consistent actions compound into decades of difference. Just as Carmen's life shows, it's not about avoiding age, it's about leaning into it with vitality, curiosity, and grace. If this message resonated with you, I'd love to invite you into this community. Like this video, share it with someone who could use a reminder that age is not a cage, and subscribe if you want more science-backed tools for health, focus, and longevity. Together, we're building a space where wisdom and vitality grow side by side. And remember, your age is not your limit. It's your canvas. What you choose to paint on it, that's where true agelessness begins. One of the most fascinating things about Carmen Dell'Orefice is that she never let age define her. At 91, she didn't carry herself like someone at the end of life. She carried herself like someone still in motion, still learning, still becoming. And that mindset, more than any cream, supplement, or exercise, is what neuroscience tells us keeps the brain and body young. Here's what the research shows when we hold rigid beliefs about aging. I'm too old to do this, or my best years are behind me. Those beliefs become self-fulfilling. Studies from Yale psychologist Becca Levy found that people with negative age stereotypes live on average 7.5 years shorter than those with positive ones. Why? Because your brain listens to the story you tell it. If you see aging as decline, your nervous system shifts into conservation mode, less exploration, less resilience, less risk-taking. But if you see aging as growth, the brain keeps wiring new pathways, adapting and renewing itself. Carmen refused to collapse into stereotypes. She reinvented herself at every stage. As a young model, she became known for her striking silver hair, a choice that defied beauty standards but set her apart. In later decades, she embraced her wrinkles as part of her artistry, rather than something to hide. And beyond fashion, she continually reframed her life purpose, not just as a model, but as a teacher, a muse, a living testament to possibility. What's happening in the brain when we do this is powerful. Purpose activates the dopaminergic system, the circuits that fuel motivation, drive, and reward. People with a clear sense of purpose show lower rates of Alzheimer's disease, better sleep, and stronger immunity. It's as if the brain says, we have a reason to keep going, so let's keep the machinery in top shape. Reinvention also taps into neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself at any age. When Carmen posed for new campaigns or walked runways in her 80s, she was doing something that demanded adaptability, not just physically, but mentally. That novelty is fuel for the brain. It keeps circuits flexible instead of rigid. So here's a tool you can apply. Choose one area of your life to reinvent, not because you're broken, but because reinvention is youth itself. It could be your style, your career path, your hobbies, even the way you move your body. Ask yourself, what would the most alive version of me try right now? That question opens the door to renewal. Carmen's life shows us that agelessness is not about denying time. It's about refusing to surrender your identity to it. You are not simply old or young. You are dynamic. You are capable of reinvention until your very last breath. And that belief, supported by decades of neuroscience, may be the most powerful longevity tool of all. Here's the thing most people miss about longevity. You can eat the best food, take the best supplements, exercise every day. But if you're lonely, your health still suffers. The science is clear. Loneliness increases mortality risk as much as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. It elevates cortisol, disrupts sleep, and weakens immunity. Which is why Carmen Dell'Orefice's story isn't just about beauty rituals or diet. It's also about intimacy and connection. Carmen never pretended her life was perfect. She endured loss, heartbreak, and even betrayal. But she never gave up on relationships. She understood something deeply human. Intimacy, whether physical, emotional, or intellectual, feeds the body as much as it feeds the mind. When she spoke about romance in her later years, it wasn't in the past tense. She remained open to love, to desire, to companionship. That openness itself is youthfulness. From a neuroscience perspective, intimacy plays a direct role in regulating brain chemistry. Physical touch releases oxytocin, sometimes called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin lowers blood pressure, reduces inflammation, and creates a sense of calm safety in the body. Emotional intimacy does something similar. When we feel seen and understood, our amygdala, the brain's alarm system, quiets down, and the prefrontal cortex, responsible for reasoning and long-term planning, becomes more active. In other words, connection literally shifts us into a healthier biological state. But connection is bigger than romance. For Carmen, friendship was a lifeline. She cultivated circles of people who inspired her, challenged her, and supported her. Researchers at Harvard, in the longest study on happiness and health, found that close relationships, not wealth, not fame, were the single strongest predictor of longevity and life satisfaction. Carmen embodied that finding. She wasn't afraid to keep her social world vibrant even into her 90s. There's also the role of giving. One of the most underestimated parts of healthy connection is being of service to others. Carmen mentored younger models, spoke publicly about her life, and reminded people that aging could be powerful, not shameful. Neuroscience shows that acts of generosity release dopamine and endorphins in the brain, producing what researchers call the helper's high. Over time, this reinforces resilience and a sense of meaning, two qualities essential for thriving at any age. What this really means is that intimacy and connection are not luxuries. They are as important to longevity as diet or exercise. When you share life with others, whether it's a romantic partner, a close friend, or even a community, you're literally rewiring your nervous system to stay balanced, resilient, and strong. Carmen's example makes it clear, youth is not just how you look in the mirror. It's how deeply you let yourself stay connected to the people around you. If you want to understand why someone like Carmen Dell'Orefice can step in front of a camera at 91 and still look radiant, it's not just genetics or makeup. A huge part of it is ritual. The daily rhythms she built around beauty, self-care, and stress regulation became the scaffolding that preserved her vitality. Let's start with beauty. For Carmen, beauty wasn't vanity. It was discipline. She treated her skin the way an athlete treats their muscles: consistency over perfection. Cleansing every evening, moisturizing without fail, and protecting her skin from the sun were not optional. Decades before SPF became mainstream, she understood that the sun could age you faster than time itself. And unlike the quick-fix culture today, she never relied on fads. Instead, she built routines that stacked up slowly over years. But beauty rituals only worked because they were part of something bigger: self-care. She paid attention to rest, hydration, and movement. It's easy to dismiss these things as simple, but science backs them up. When you sleep deeply, your body triggers growth hormone release, repairing tissues, and even improving skin elasticity. When you hydrate well, your skin cells stay plump, collagen holds better, and circulation improves. Even something as straightforward as posture, standing tall, shoulders back, chin level, became part of her beauty. Posture isn't just aesthetic, it's physiological. Expansive posture improves breathing mechanics, oxygen delivery, and even shifts neurotransmitters like serotonin and dopamine toward a more balanced mood. Now, the third pillar here, stress regulation, might be the most important. Chronic stress doesn't just drain energy. It accelerates aging. Elevated cortisol over decades thins the skin, breaks down collagen, and creates inflammation that makes every organ work harder. Carmen understood this intuitively. She crafted rituals that calmed her nervous system. Sometimes that meant meditation or quiet reflection, sometimes it was art, sometimes just the discipline of grooming itself. Neuroscience shows us that repetitive, intentional actions, like brushing hair slowly, applying skincare, or even sitting with a cup of tea, signal safety to the brain. They activate the parasympathetic nervous system, lowering heart rate, reducing cortisol, and allowing recovery. This is the deeper point. Beauty, self-care, and stress regulation weren't three separate things in her life. They were one system. Each ritual fed into the other. Protect the skin, support the body, calm the mind. Over years, that compounding effect was more powerful than any cosmetic procedure. What this really means is that longevity is not just about what you eat or how you move. It's about what you do every day to lower stress, anchor yourself, and honor your body. Carmen's story shows us that beauty is not an accident, it's a practice. And like any practice, the earlier you start and the more consistent you stay, the more remarkable the results will be decades down the line. Here's something that often surprises people. Your mindset, the way you think about your life, your future, and even your challenges, has direct biological consequences. It's not just psychology, it's physiology. One of the clearest examples comes from research on purpose. A study published in the Lancet Healthy Longevity followed older adults for years and found that those who reported a strong sense of purpose lived significantly longer, even after controlling for health conditions, income, and lifestyle. Why? Because purpose acts like a regulator. It shapes hormone balance, immune function, and even gene expression. People with purpose literally age more slowly at the cellular level. Think of it this way. The body is always scanning. Is there a reason to keep investing in repair, growth, and resilience? If your brain perceives that your life has meaning, your biology responds with energy and vitality. If the brain perceives there's nothing to live for, systems downshift, stress rises, immunity weakens, and aging accelerates. There's also fascinating work on mindset and recovery. In a Harvard study, hotel workers were told that their daily tasks, cleaning rooms, walking hallways, carrying supplies, met the requirements for healthy exercise. Within weeks, those workers showed improvements in blood pressure and weight compared to a control group, even though their behavior didn't change. The only difference was mindset. They believed their activity had value and the body responded accordingly. Here's a practical tool. Each morning before diving into routine, ask, what am I moving toward today? This doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It could be learning a new skill, spending meaningful time with a loved one, or contributing to your community. The brain thrives on progress, however small. That sense of forward movement builds resilience. Carmen Dell'Orefice demonstrates this principle beautifully. At 91, she continues to model, give interviews, and engage with the world. Her purpose isn't abstract, it's embodied. She lives with a sense that her presence still matters, and her biology follows that script. She shows us that age doesn't mean irrelevance. It can mean influence. Here's something worth reflecting on. How do you talk to yourself about aging? Many people enter their 50s or 60s expecting decline, and that expectation becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Studies show that people with negative attitudes toward aging are more likely to develop memory loss, cardiovascular disease, and disability. In contrast, those with positive beliefs about aging live on average 7.5 years longer. That's the power of mindset. If you're noticing the theme, it's this: biology is not separate from psychology. The two are intertwined. Every thought you hold about your value, your future, your role in the world sends ripples through your nervous system, your hormones, and your cells. So here's the takeaway. Don't underestimate the role of mindset and purpose in health. Food, exercise, and sleep are essential. Yes, but they are amplified or undermined by the story you're living. If you want to live not just long but well, define your why. Give your brain a reason to keep investing in youth. That sense of direction doesn't just color your experience of life. It literally shapes how long and how well you live it. When people talk about longevity, they usually think about food, exercise, or sleep. But one of the most overlooked factors in staying young is intimacy, both sexual intimacy and the broader sense of human connection. It's not just about pleasure or companionship, it's biology. Here's what the research shows. When you engage in intimacy, whether through touch, sex, or even deep conversation, your body releases oxytocin. This hormone lowers cortisol, reduces blood pressure, and strengthens your cardiovascular system. It's often called the bonding hormone, but it's also a powerful anti-aging compound. Oxytocin literally protects your heart and slows the cellular wear and tear driven by chronic stress. There's more. Studies published in the journals of gerontology found that older adults who maintained active sex lives reported higher overall life satisfaction, better cognitive performance, and stronger immune function. In other words, intimacy doesn't just make life feel richer, it directly reinforces the systems that keep you alive and thriving. But intimacy is broader than physical relationships. Close social bonds, friendships, family ties, community are equally critical. The famous Harvard study of adult development, which tracked people over 8 decades, concluded that the single strongest predictor of long-term health and happiness was the quality of their relationships. Not wealth, not status, relationships. Think about that. You can eat perfectly, exercise daily, and get solid sleep. But if you are chronically lonely, your risk of early death increases dramatically. In fact, loneliness has been compared to smoking 15 cigarettes a day in terms of its impact on health. That's how biologically costly disconnection can be. Here's a simple but powerful tool. Prioritize micro moments of connection. A warm smile, a brief touch, a few minutes of eye contact with someone you care about. These moments release the same biochemical cocktail of oxytocin and dopamine as longer encounters. They don't just feel good, they recalibrate your nervous system toward calm and resilience. Carmen Dell'Orefice is a striking example of this principle. She has always emphasized the importance of relationships, romantic, platonic, and professional. She radiates vitality not only because of what she eats or how she rests, but because she stays deeply engaged with people, with beauty, and with life itself. Here's a question to ask yourself. When was the last time you nurtured intimacy? Not just in the physical sense, but in the emotional sense of really being present with someone. For many, the modern world has made it easy to substitute screen time for real connection, yet your biology knows the difference. If this perspective is resonating with you, and you want more science-backed tools for strengthening both your body and your mind, consider subscribing to the channel. That way you won't miss the upcoming deep dives into the habits that make vitality possible at any age. Let's make it practical. You don't need a perfect love life to reap the benefits. You can start small. Call an old friend. Hug your partner for a few extra seconds. Make eye contact with your child or grandchild instead of half listening while scrolling on your phone. These little acts are not just social niceties, they're biological nutrients. as vital as vitamins or minerals. The takeaway is this: intimacy and connection aren't optional extras in the longevity equation. They are fundamental drivers of health span. If you want to feel younger than your years, if you want to live not just long but well, then invest in connection. Because when the heart is nourished, the body follows. If food is the raw material for youth and movement is the signal to stay young, then sleep is the deep repair system. Without it, everything else starts to unravel. Here's what's happening in your brain and body when you sleep. During the night, your brain enters different stages, including slow-wave deep sleep and rapid eye movement sleep. In deep sleep, something remarkable occurs. Your brain's glymphatic system, a kind of cleanup crew, washes away metabolic waste products, including beta amyloid, which is associated with Alzheimer's disease. If you routinely cut your sleep short, that waste builds up. Over time, it doesn't just make you groggy, it accelerates brain aging. On the hormonal level, sleep is when your body restores balance. Growth hormone, essential for tissue repair, muscle maintenance, and skin health, is released primarily during the first part of the night. Testosterone, which supports energy, mood, and libido, is replenished during deep sleep cycles. And cortisol, your main stress hormone, is regulated through sleep architecture. When you skimp on rest, cortisol remains high and the body stays in a low-grade state of fight or flight. That's not just stressful, it directly shortens telomeres, those protective caps on your DNA linked to lifespan. Have you ever noticed how, after a poor night's sleep, you crave sugar, feel more irritable, and find it harder to focus? That's not weakness, it's biology. Research from the University of Chicago shows that just 1 week of restricted sleep can reduce insulin sensitivity by up to 30%, pushing you closer to metabolic disorders. In other words, lack of sleep makes you look and feel older faster. The good news is, sleep is one of the most powerful anti-aging tools you can reclaim. Here sips a simple protocol. Protect your circadian rhythm. Your body clock is guided by light. Aim for bright natural light in the morning and avoid blue light from screens in the 90 minutes before bed. This helps your brain release melatonin naturally. Set a consistent sleep window. Going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time strengthens the architecture of sleep. Your body learns when to expect repair time. Create a cooling environment. Studies show that people sleep deeper when the room is a few degrees cooler. Around 65 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit is ideal for most adults. Here's something else to consider. Recovery isn't only about nighttime sleep. Short naps, relaxation techniques, and even intentional rest during the day can extend longevity benefits. In fact, research on Mediterranean populations, some of the longest-lived people in the world, shows that daytime rest is a common cultural practice. Carmen Dell'Orefice herself has credited rest as part of her vitality. She doesn't equate busyness with value. She understands that to perform well, whether on a runway or in life, the body and mind need downtime. That's a mindset many of us could benefit from. So let me ask you, how often do you protect your sleep with the same seriousness you protect your work or your family responsibilities? Many people treat sleep as optional, the thing you cut back on when life gets busy. But if you want to slow aging and maintain energy, sleep has to become non-negotiable. The takeaway is simple. Sleep is not wasted time. It's the most essential biological investment you can make. Each night of quality rest is like depositing youth into your future. Ignore it, and you're withdrawing from your health account at high interest. Respect it, and you'll discover the same truth Carmen embodies, that recovery is not laziness, it's strategy. When you think about staying young, exercise might seem like an obvious answer, but let's get precise. Movement isn't just about keeping your muscles toned or burning calories. It's a biological signal, one that tells your body whether you are still youthful or whether it's time to wind down. Here's why. Your muscles aren't only for lifting or walking. They're actually an endocrine organ. When you move, your muscles release signaling molecules called myokines. These travel through your bloodstream and talk to your brain, your immune system, and even your skin. In fact, research from the Mayo Clinic has shown that regular exercise reduces inflammation system-wide, improves neuroplasticity, and directly protects against age-related diseases like Alzheimer's. Think of exercise like a broadcast tower. Every time you move, you're broadcasting a message. This body is still active, still engaged, still needed. Your cells respond accordingly by repairing tissues, optimizing hormones, and maintaining resilience. Without movement, the opposite message is sent. Muscles atrophy, metabolism slows, and the body starts to prepare for decline. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Applied Physiology compared older adults who had exercised consistently for decades with those who were sedentary. The active group, many in their 70s, had cardiovascular profiles and muscle health similar to people in their 40s. That's a 30-year biological advantage, earned not through genetics, but through the cumulative effect of daily movement. Here's a practical way to think about it. Movement doesn't have to mean hours in the gym. What matters is consistency and variety. Consistency, even a brisk 20 to 30-minute walk most days, creates a measurable improvement in insulin sensitivity and cardiovascular health. Variety, your body thrives on different kinds of signals. Strength training builds bone density and muscle. Aerobic activity improves heart and lung function. Flexibility and balance work, yoga, tai chi, or simple stretching, protect against falls and maintain coordination. Here's a question to reflect on. When was the last time you broke a sweat intentionally? For many people, days or even weeks can go by without true physical exertion. Yet your body is designed to move daily. Carmen Dell'Orefice herself has often spoken about the importance of posture, walking, and keeping her body in motion. She doesn't treat exercise as punishment. She treats it as part of living beautifully. There's also a neurological dimension. Exercise increases brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF, sometimes called fertilizer for the brain. Higher BDNF means more connections between neurons, better learning, and better memory. That's one reason exercise consistently outperforms pharmaceutical interventions for mild depression and cognitive decline. Movement doesn't just keep your body young, it literally keeps your brain younger, sharper, and more adaptable. If you're finding this breakdown useful so far, consider subscribing to the channel. This way you'll keep getting science-based tools you can apply directly to your daily life. Let's tie this together with one more actionable tool. Use what researchers call exercise snacks. Instead of waiting for the perfect 60-minute workout, break your movement into small doses. A set of squats while your coffee brews, a 10-minute walk after meals, a few minutes of stretching between tasks. These microbursts accumulate into the same benefits as one longer workout while being far easier to sustain. So here's the takeaway. Exercise is not optional if you want to age like Carmen Dell'Orefice. It's the most potent youth signal you can send to your body. Movement says, I am alive, I am capable, and I am not done yet. And your biology will follow that message. When people talk about looking younger than their age, they usually point to genetics or skincare. But here's the deeper truth. What you put on your plate is shaping how old your cells feel every single day. And this isn't metaphorical, it's cellular biology. Every bite of food you eat is sending instructions to your body, either to grow, repair, and thrive, or to inflame, damage, and accelerate decline. Think of food less like fuel and more like code. Your mitochondria, the little engines inside your cells, are reading that code constantly. Give them the right signals, and they produce energy efficiently, repair DNA, and keep tissues youthful. Give them the wrong signals, and they produce oxidative stress, the kind of cellular wear and tear that shows up as fatigue, brain fog, wrinkles, and vulnerability to disease. Here's what the research shows. Diets rich in processed sugar, fried oils, and refined carbohydrates spike blood glucose, which leads to advanced glycation end products, molecules that literally stiffen your skin, blood vessels, and joints. That's one of the reasons people who consume a high-sugar diet often look older. On the flip side, studies from Harvard and the European Journal of Nutrition show that diets rich in antioxidants, especially from berries, green vegetables, nuts, and omega-3 rich fish, slow down oxidative stress and keep cells resilient. Take polyphenols as an example. These are compounds found in foods like blueberries, green tea, and extra virgin olive oil. They don't just reduce inflammation, they activate pathways like AMPK and sirtuins, the same longevity genes targeted by anti-aging drugs in clinical research. In plain language, these compounds flip on your body's repair switch. That's not just theory. In multiple human trials, people with diets high in polyphenols had lower risk of cardiovascular disease, better cognitive performance, and even longer telomere length, telomeres being the protective caps at the ends of your chromosomes that shorten as you age. Now, here's a practical tool you can apply. Build your meals around what I call the three anchors of youth: color, fiber, and fat. Color: eat a rainbow of plant foods. The pigments: anthocyanins in purple foods, carotenoids in orange foods, chlorophyll in greens. Each protect different systems in the body. Fiber: think of fiber as the scaffolding that feeds your gut microbiome. When your microbiome thrives, it produces short-chain fatty acids that reduce systemic inflammation and protect brain health. Fat: not all fats are created equal. Omega-3 fatty acids, found in salmon, walnuts, and flax seeds, literally become part of your cell membranes, keeping them flexible and young. Contrast that with trans fats, which rigidify cell membranes and accelerate aging. Here's a question to ask yourself. If someone looked inside your fridge right now, would it reflect the biology you want to have in your 60s, 70s, or even 90s? Carmen Dell'Orefice is not eating for comfort alone. She's eating for function. Her food choices are reinforcing the vitality that shows up in her face, her energy, and her confidence. There's another layer to food as cellular medicine: timing. Studies on intermittent fasting and time-restricted eating show that spacing your meals within an 8 to 10-hour window improves insulin sensitivity and enhances autophagy, the process by which your body recycles old, damaged cells. That's one of the most powerful anti-aging mechanisms we know. You don't need to starve yourself to see the benefits. Simply avoiding late-night eating and giving your body a 12 to 14-hour fasting window overnight can have profound effects on cellular health. So here's the takeaway. Every meal is either a signal to age faster or a signal to repair. The choice is not about perfection. Nobody eats flawlessly. The point is to consistently tilt the scale toward foods that send the right messages to your cells. More color, more fiber, more healthy fat, less processed junk. That's how you begin to live out the principle Carmen models so well, that age doesn't have to define vitality. Your biology responds to what you do daily, not just the number on your birth certificate. At first glance, Carmen Dell'Orefice looks like she's broken the rules of biology. At 91 years old, she carries herself with the vitality, elegance, and energy of someone decades younger. Her story forces us to pause and ask, is graceful longevity just a matter of genetics and luck? Or are there principles of health, psychology, and daily practice that we can all learn from? Here's what science is beginning to reveal. Your biological age and your chronological age are not the same thing. Research from Harvard and Stanford shows that lifestyle choices, everything from the foods we eat to the way we regulate stress, to how often we maintain intimacy and connection, can switch certain genes on or off. This process, known as epigenetics, is one of the most powerful tools we have in extending both lifespan and health span. In other words, how long you live is one thing, but how well you live, your energy, your strength, your clarity of thought, is something you can shape every single day. Carmen Dell'Orefice embodies that principle. She models not just clothing, but a philosophy of longevity rooted in care for the body and mind. She shows us that aging does not have to mean decline. It can mean refinement. The real question becomes, what specific habits and psychological frameworks allow someone in their 90s to remain vibrant, sexually alive, and full of purpose? That's where we're going today. In this talk, we're going to explore 6 science-backed insights that explain why some people age dramatically better than others. We'll look at nutrition and anti-aging foods, the neuroscience of intimacy and connection, the psychology of purpose, the role of movement in keeping the brain young, how sleep and recovery shape longevity, and the mental reframes that allow you to approach aging with resilience instead of fear. By the end, you'll not only understand the science behind Carmen Dell'Orefice's vitality, but you'll also walk away with clear, practical tools you can begin using today. Small adjustments in how you eat, move, think, and connect can change the trajectory of your life, no matter your starting point.